Welcome to the Behind the Lens series, where we look to find the right documentary zoom for your creative intent. In this video, we'll be looking at the Canon Servo 18-80, a hybrid zoom that takes parts from both DSLR zooms and cinema zooms. The Canon 18-80 is a t4.4 or f4 aperture lens, which is great for consistency throughout the entire zoom range, but it's a little lacking for low light shooting. This lens has incorporated some of the great elements from DSLR style zooms, like auto iris and autofocus, and image stabilization, as well as bringing in some of those elements from the cinema style zooms, like parfocal focusing, geared focus zoom and iris rings, and smooth iris control. Unfortunately though, the focus ring doesn't have hard stops, which makes repeatable focus moves difficult. The lens features a servo grip that gives you start-stop, one-shot AF, and a zoom rocker. The servo grip attaches to the lens via an airy rosette, but this is great because you're not limited to just keeping the servo on the lens. You can mount it off the rods, or you can even mount it on the tripod handle. So this gives you a lot of flexibility and makes it easier for camera balance. When we shot the lens against a resolution chart, we actually found that this lens is incredibly sharp, and it holds that sharpness through the entire aperture range. So this is an incredibly impressive element of this lens. The color of this lens is pretty neutral overall, but it does add a little bit of warmth to the skin tones, and there's some pleasing contrast to the image as well. I actually found that the color profile of the 18-80 is almost identical to the more expensive Canon compact zooms, like the 15.5-47 and the 30-105. When we tested the lens for breathing in the interview frame, we found that at 35mm there is some minimal breathing noticed, but at 50mm there's almost no breathing at all. Now when we tested the lens in the pool table scene, you can definitely see some breathing at the wide end at 18mm, especially as we roll towards minimum focus. But then at the tight end of the lens at 80mm, there's zero breathing to the lens. The 18-80 has a minimum focus distance of 1.7 feet. So what this means is that object is about a foot in front of the front element. So this gives you some nice options when you're shooting both wide and tight with the lens. The lens is incredibly flare resistant, but unlike some of the other lenses that we tested, it doesn't mean that this is an ugly flare. At the wide end of the lens, there's a starring pattern around the light itself that's surrounded by a blue-white halo. And the flare trail itself is really small with green elements. At the tight end of the lens, the flare is almost identical as it was in the wide, except now just punched in, obviously. The only difference is that at the entrance and exit of that flare into frame, there's a purple light leak that occurs. The Canon Servo 18-80 is a beautiful lens with a lot of features. It's light and compact, weighing just 2.65 pounds. The lens has a consistent yet slow aperture of t4.4. You've got fully manual control of your focus, zoom, and iris, while also having autofocus and auto iris capabilities. Unfortunately though, the focus ring doesn't have hard stops. The lens has image stabilization in 3 steps to make sure that you get a smooth, steady shot. The lens features a servo grip that gives you a zoom rocker and start-stop while letting you mount that servo grip anywhere on the camera. This lens is incredibly sharp. Its color is neutral while adding a little bit of warmth to the skin tones. Depending on the focal length, there's little to no breathing with this lens. It has a good minimum focus distance of 1.7 feet, and it's incredibly flare resistant while still looking beautiful. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the companion blog post where we have a lot more information about this lens. Thanks so much for watching the Behind the Lens series, and be sure to check out all the other videos.